Have you ever wondered why the man you love so deeply treats you as if you were invisible? Why, after all these years in which you have given him everything, he still throws only a few crumbs of attention your way, and you are expected to be grateful for it? Today you will discover something Carl Jung understood very well about the male psyche, something so profound that once you truly grasp it, you will never again beg for love. When I began studying Jung's psychology years ago, I came across a bitter truth. Our relationships are often governed by unconscious patterns. Jung spoke of the shadows within us, the parts we repress, hide, or don't even know exist. With men who give only crumbs, there is a deeply rooted shadow behind it, one that most women never recognize. The painful part is that while you wait, give, love, sacrifice, and hope that he will eventually value you, he comfortably lives within a pattern that allows him to receive everything without ever truly giving back. It is almost as if he has found the perfect formula to receive love without investing any himself. The crucial point is this: he is not aware of this pattern. He does not wake up in the morning thinking, "Today I'll manipulate her with a few crumbs." It runs much deeper, hidden in the unconscious, perhaps since childhood. And once you recognize the original wound that drives his behavior, you will understand why all your efforts so far have failed. Jung said, "What is not made conscious manifests as fate." That is exactly what happens here. As long as he does not become aware of his pattern, he repeats it, with you and with every woman after you. But here's the point. You do not have to be a partner in this pattern. Instead, ask yourself, how often have you felt that you had to prove your worth before being loved? Write it down and hold on to this truth. I deserve love without having to prove it. That is the first step toward your liberation. To understand why a man gives you only crumbs, we need to return to what Jung called the primal wound of the masculine. Every man carries a deep wound from early childhood, a wound that shapes his entire relationship life. This wound has a clear name, the fear of abandonment disguised as the need for control. It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? Let me explain. If a child does not experience unconditional love from his mother, if he feels that love must be earned, if he fears that affection will disappear unless he is perfect, something breaks inside. He develops the belief, love is not safe, it can disappear at any moment. From this wounded boy grows a man who unconsciously decides, never again will I make myself completely vulnerable to a woman. His inner program whispers, if I don't give myself fully, then I can't be fully hurt. And thus the crumb pattern is born. He gives you just enough to make you stay, but never everything, because everything means risk. 30% attention so you won't leave, 70% kept back as emotional insurance, always with one foot at the door, ready to run if things become too serious, too intense, or too vulnerable. Jung observed that such men develop a false sense of power. They believe that by controlling the amount of love, they stay in control. But in truth, the opposite is the case. They are slaves to their own fear. And here is the decisive point. A man who gives only crumbs constantly tests whether you will still not leave him. Every time he withdraws and you stay. Every time he doesn't answer and you keep writing. Every time he cancels plans and you forgive him. His unconscious registers, all right, she won't leave, and so he continues again and again. And while you interpret your staying as love and loyalty, he understands it as confirmation that he does not need to make any effort. His primal wound whispers to him, if she stays, even though I give so little, I am safe. I don't need to risk anything. This pattern continues because your unconditional giving paradoxically reinforces his conditional loving. The more you show that you won't leave, the fewer reasons he sees to change. Now I want to take you deeper into the psyche of a man who gives you only crumbs. because Jung understood something crucial about power in relationships that will hit you hard. These men are not consciously playing with you. They are playing an unconscious game with themselves, and you have become the chessboard. Inside him, two forces are in constant battle: the wounded child screaming for total love, and the adult who is terrified of precisely that kind of devotion. That is why he develops what could be called emotional survival strategies, one of the most common: minimal effort with maximum gain. Have you noticed how he seems to have an inner sensor that picks up exactly when you are about to leave? Just at the moment when you think, that's enough, he suddenly appears with a sweet gesture, a loving word, or a promise to change. That is no coincidence. His unconscious has learned to read your signals just before the breaking point and reacts just in time to keep you. Jung called this the mechanism of intermittent control. It is the same principle as with slot machines. If the machine paid out constantly, it would be boring. If it never paid out, you would stop playing. But if it pays out just once in a while, at random, you remain hooked. In exactly the same way, he has unconsciously learned he doesn't need to give you constant love to keep you. He only needs to give it when he senses you might walk away. This is a twisted emotional economy. He invests the minimum to receive the maximum. And the most painful part is that while he plays this unconscious control game, you take part without realizing it. Every time you accept the crumbs, every time you feel grateful for a few drops of affection, every time you interpret a small spark as hope, you confirm that his strategy works. It is like an unconscious dance. He withdraws, you move closer. He distances himself, you chase after him. He gives little, you give more. And this dance can go on for years or decades because both roles are fueled by unconscious wounds. His inner voice says, as long as I don't give myself fully, I am safe. Your inner voice says, if I give more, if I am more patient, he will change. But neither of you sees the truth. You are both prisoners of old wounds that keep you trapped in this destructive pattern. The real power lies neither in giving nor in accepting crumbs. The real power lies in seeing through the game and choosing not to play anymore. There is something incredibly powerful in the way a man who gives crumbs keeps your hope alive. And Jung understood this very well. He recognized how men, unconsciously, manage to create what psychologists call the intermittent cycle of hope. It is one of the strongest psychological mechanisms of all. And once you realize that you were trapped in it, you will be shocked. Hope, which should actually heal and motivate, becomes an invisible chain when it is given in small, unpredictable doses. He never gives you enough love to feel truly fulfilled, but just enough that you cannot leave. It is as if he has found the perfect formula to keep you in a constant state of almost, maybe, and tomorrow it could finally happen. Have you noticed how every small gesture from him turns into a mountain of hope in your mind? A sweet message after days of coldness, and you immediately think he has finally changed. A romantic date after weeks of cancellations, and you believe that now he finally values you. A whispered, I love you, after months of emotional silence, and you feel that all the suffering was worth it. But Jung understood something decisive about this pattern. Intermittent hope creates an emotional dependency that is stronger than constant love. Your brain releases more dopamine during these unpredictable small rewards than it would through stable, consistent love. That is the cruel paradox of our biochemistry. We value what is scarce and unpredictable more highly. Ask yourself honestly, and if you like, write it down. How often do you feel that you live more in the hope of what could be than in the reality of what is? Right. I choose reality over illusion if this touches you deeply. The problem is that as long as you live in this constant hope, you are not living in the present. You live in a hypothetical future in which he changes, values you, becomes the man you need. But in the meantime, your present slips through your fingers, in a waiting that may never end. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But how can you become yourself if you are always waiting for someone else to become who you need? You cannot flourish if all your energy is spent on helping someone else flourish. Hope becomes your prison when you use it to avoid making difficult decisions in the present. As long as the hope remains that he will change, you don't have to face the reality that he may never do so. And now comes the hardest, but also the most liberating truth. Jung was right when he said that we attract what we need to heal in ourselves. A man who gives you only crumbs has not entered your life by accident. He is the perfect mirror for a wound you also carry within you, a wound you may have been avoiding for years. Have you ever wondered why other types of men do not attract you in the same way? Why those who are available, who would give you their love from the very beginning, who would truly appreciate you, seem boring to you? The answer lies in what Jung called the familiarity of the wound. Your unconscious is programmed to recognize as love what resembles the patterns of your childhood. If you grew up in an environment where you had to earn love, where you had to prove your worth, where you had to be perfect to receive attention, then a man who loves you unconditionally from the start feels foreign, strange, almost unreal to you. In contrast, a man who makes you work for his affection, who makes you feel you must prove your worth, who keeps you in constant uncertainty, feels familiar. Your wounded psyche confuses this sense of familiarity with deep connection or chemistry, although in reality it is only the recognition of an old, painful pattern. This is a harsh but liberating truth. As an adult, you recreate the same emotional dynamics you experienced as a child. If love back then was conditional, irregular, something you had to earn, then you unconsciously seek exactly this kind of love in your adult relationships. Here is the turning point. He is not the real problem. He is only the actor your unconscious has chosen to play the role of familiar love in your life story. As long as you do not heal this primal wound, as long as you do not change your inner definition of love, you will continue to attract men who confirm this dysfunctional definition. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Your fate of always being with men who do not value you is not fate. It is only an unconscious wound guiding your choices. The good news is this: once you recognize the pattern, once you understand that your attraction to him is not true love, but only the recognition of a wound, you can begin to heal. You can rewrite your definition of love. You can teach your heart that real love does not hurt, is not scarce, and is not something you must earn. The man who gives you only crumbs will remain as he is until he himself decides to change. But you can change today, right in this moment, the way you respond to his pattern. Jung discovered something fascinating about human relationships. We are all caught in what he called unconscious dances, situations in which two wounds perfectly complement each other. In the case of a man who gives crumbs and a woman who accepts them, we see the most common and at the same time most destructive dance, the dance of abandonment. He is terrified of being abandoned, so he abandons first. You are also afraid of being abandoned, so you abandon yourself, just so that he will not leave you. A cruel irony. Both of you do exactly what you most fear from the other. When he withdraws emotionally, doesn't respond, cancels plans, or seems cold, it is not conscious cruelty toward you. He is fleeing from his own fear of abandonment. His unconscious says, "If I leave first, they cannot leave me." Childish logic, yes, but it drives his behavior. And you react in the opposite way. You move closer, you give more, you try harder, you sacrifice yourself more. Your unconscious says, "If I show more love, if I am more valuable, if I sacrifice more, then he will not leave me." Also childish logic, but it too drives your behavior. And here lies the tragedy of this dance. The more he withdraws, the more you abandon yourself. And the more you abandon yourself, the more it confirms his belief that he can safely pull away. A cycle in which each of you feeds the other's destructive pattern. Have you noticed how much of yourself you have lost in this relationship, piece by piece? Perhaps you gave up things you once loved just to be available for him. Perhaps you silenced your opinions to avoid conflict. Perhaps you placed his needs so far above your own that you hardly know yours anymore. This is self-abandonment, the other side of the abandonment you fear so deeply. You abandon yourself in a desperate attempt not to be abandoned by him. But here is the truth Jung also saw. You cannot prevent external loss by abandoning yourself. All you do is keep it alive. The dance of abandonment ends only when one of the two decides not to dance anymore. When you decide not to give yourself up out of fear that someone else might leave you. When you recognize the most important relationship is the one with yourself. Jung's deepest insight about relationships was his theory of projection, and applied to you and a man who gives you only crumbs, everything suddenly becomes clear. The truth is, he does not really see you. He reacts to an image born from his deepest wound. In his unconscious, you represent the first woman who hurt him, his mother. Whether she was loving or cold, present or absent, it makes no difference. She was his first model of femininity and love, and all his unresolved feelings toward her are reflected in his behavior with you. If the mother was overprotective, he projects the fear of being smothered onto you and keeps his distance. If she was cold or absent, he unconsciously expects you to abandon him as well, and protects himself by never fully committing. If her affection was unpredictable, he repeats exactly that unpredictability with you. The most painful part of this is that nothing you do will change these projections. Because they are not about you, they are about old wounds and patterns from his childhood. If he treats you with indifference, he is not responding to something you did, but to an inner image he himself doesn't know. If he withdraws after moments of closeness, it is not because he doesn't like you, but because intimacy awakens unconscious memories of vulnerability in him that he associates with danger. And now, the liberating truth. You project as well. When you look at him, you are not really seeing him. You are seeing the male figure you needed as a child, and perhaps never had. You see the father who did not affirm you, the man who did not make you feel enough, the male recognition your inner child always longed for. That is why his rejection hurts so much. It is not just him who is rejecting you. Each time it is also the echo of rejection from your past. That is why his small gestures mean so much to you. It is not just him appreciating you. It is the feeling of finally receiving the validation your inner child always searched for. This is why the relationship feels so intense, so important, so meant to be. But it is not true love. It is two wounds recognizing each other, two projections that perfectly interlock. Liberation begins the moment you realize you are not in love with a real man, but with a projection. And he is not really rejecting you either, but his own projection. Jung described different archetypes that operate in the collective unconscious. One of them is very strong in women who stay with men that give them only crumbs, the archetype of the rescuer. Unconsciously, you have taken on the role, I will save him, I will heal his wound with my love, I will be different from all the others. This archetype is seductive because it makes you feel special, unique, important. I am the woman who will change him. I am the one who will make him open up. I am the one who will prove to him that true love exists. This is a powerful fantasy because it puts you in the leading role of a heroine's story where your love has the power to transform another person. But Jung knew something that women often learn only after years of painful experience. You cannot save someone who does not want to be saved. And even more important, the attempt will destroy you in the process. The moment you activate the rescuer archetype, you automatically place yourself in an inferior position. You give, He takes. You try, he benefits. You change, he stays the same. This imbalance drains your energy and leaves you empty. The rescuer also lives on an unconscious belief. Your worth depends on how much you can fix others. If you fail to save him, you might think, then I am not good enough, not valuable enough, not special enough. This keeps you trapped in a cycle where every small change in him confirms your worth, and every setback serves as proof of your inadequacy. The truth that this archetype does not want you to see is he must save himself. As long as you take on his healing, he has no reason to take responsibility for himself. Jung said, "When two personalities meet, it is like the contact of two chemical substances. If a reaction occurs, both are transformed." But in a relationship where one is the rescuer and the other the rescued, there is no mutual transformation, only the exhaustion of one and the comfort of the other. The question you must ask yourself is not, how can I help him change? But, why do I need him to change in order to feel valuable? This answer leads you directly to your own wound, the one that truly needs healing. The rescuer archetype is ultimately a strategy of avoidance. It is easier to focus on his chaos than to face your own inner chaos. Jung revolutionized psychology when he spoke of the shadow side, the parts of us we repress, reject, or refuse to see. Women who settle for crumbs often carry a very specific shadow, emotional dependency disguised as love. Your shadow whispers sentences you would never consciously admit. Better to be with someone who hurts me than to be alone. Better a little toxic love than none at all. Better to live in the illusion of a relationship than to face the truth that he does not love me the way I need. This shadow usually formed in your childhood. Back then you learned that it was safer to adapt to the needs of others rather than express your own. You learned that your worth depended on how useful, understanding, and easy to please you were. You internalized the message that your needs were too much, your pain was bothersome, and your very presence was something you had to earn. Another part of the shadow is the fear of your own power. It is easier to remain the victim in a relationship than to recognize that you have the power to create an entirely different life. Being a victim is, paradoxically, comfortable because it frees you from the responsibility of making difficult decisions. Jung observed that we often cling to suffering because it feels familiar. Your shadow prefers the known pain of a toxic relationship over the uncertainty of a new beginning. It clings to the comfort of blaming him for your unhappiness rather than taking responsibility for your own joy. Another aspect of the shadow is the addiction to drama, the constant ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster of hope and disappointment, the intensity of reconciliations after crises. All of this creates emotional adrenaline that can become addictive. A healthy, stable relationship seems boring by comparison. Your shadow also contains the part of you that secretly finds satisfaction in suffering. The part that can show the world, I am the woman who loves too much, the one who gives everything, the one who is so understanding and patient. These roles give you identity, make you feel morally superior, and bring you sympathy and validation from others. Recognizing the shadow does not mean condemning yourself. It means freeing yourself, because only when you bring these parts into the light can you transform them. Only when you admit that a part of you is afraid of real love, prefers the familiar drama, or has settled into victimhood, can you consciously choose differently. The shadow loses its power when you bring it into the light. And Jung had a term for the process of becoming who you truly are: individuation. And for a woman who has long lived in the pattern of accepting crumbs, individuation is the way back to yourself. The process of remembering who you were before you learned to give yourself up for love. Individuation in your case means something very concrete. To stop seeking your wholeness in another person. To understand that you are not a half waiting for someone to complete you. You are already a whole being, capable of deciding to share your fullness with someone who is also whole. This path begins with a question that may frighten you. Who would you be if you did not define yourself through your relationship with him? What would you do if your thoughts did not constantly revolve around how to get more love from him? What would your life look like if your happiness did not depend on his moods, his attention, his approval? Individuation means rebuilding your relationship with yourself from the ground up. Rediscovering what you like, what you want, what you need, without the filter of, does he like this, or could this drive him away? It means detaching from the role of the woman who loves too much and reconnecting with your true self. Jung knew that this process is neither linear nor comfortable. There will be days when you want to fall back into the old pattern because individuation can feel lonely at first. When you begin setting boundaries, when you prioritize yourself, when you stop accepting crumbs, it may feel as if you are losing love, but in truth you are only letting go of the illusion of love to make space for real love. Individuation also means integrating your shadow, recognizing and accepting the parts of you that participated in this destructive pattern. Not to condemn yourself, but to understand and consciously choose differently. It means forgiving yourself for having accepted less than you deserve, and at the same time committing never to do it again. And then you discover something beautiful. Your ability to love deeply is not a weakness, but your greatest strength. It only becomes a trap when you direct it at someone who cannot receive it. It becomes your superpower when you learn to give it to yourself first. Individuation does not mean becoming cold or closing yourself off from love. It means being selective with your love. To understand that your heart is a treasure to be earned, not a gift for someone who does not appreciate it. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And who you truly are is not a woman who accepts crumbs. You are someone who deserves and can create real, deep, reciprocal, and healing love." We have reached the end of this journey of understanding, and I want you to know one thing. The very fact that you have come this far, that you had the courage to look into the mirror of truth Jung holds up to us, is already a transformation. You are no longer the same woman who began reading this message. The question now is not whether he will change. The question is, will you allow all that you have realized today to change your life? Because Jung was right. Knowledge without action is only intellectual entertainment. True transformation begins when you decide to act from your new awareness. Tomorrow, when he writes to you after days of silence, you will have a choice. You can respond as the woman you once were, who rejoices at every little scrap of attention, or you can respond as the woman you are now, who knows she deserves consistency, respect, and real love. When he cancels plans at the last minute, you will have a choice. You can react as you once did, excuse his behavior, and adjust yourself. Or you can act from your new awareness, honor your boundaries, and respect your own worth. The path to a healthy relationship, whether with him, if he chooses to change, or with someone entirely different, begins with one simple decision: to choose yourself. Your well-being over his convenience. Your growth over the familiarity of old patterns. If you feel that this message has touched you deeply, if you recognize your own story within it, then write, "Today I choose to love myself the way I deserve." Because these words are not just a sentence, they are your declaration of emotional independence. And if in this moment you feel that it is time to go deeper into your healing process, that you are ready to truly embark on a journey of personal transformation, then I have prepared something special for you. In the first pinned comment, you will find our ebook, Your Pain Was Not in Vain. A 30-day guide for women who have decided to choose themselves. It is a guide inspired by Carl Jung's depth psychology, created to help you reconnect with your inner strength, rebuild your self-worth, and stop abandoning yourself. I am offering it to you with love. Perhaps you will feel that it can accompany you on this journey. Remember, you did not come into this world to beg for love. You are here to give and receive love. In its purest form, you are here to create relationships that nourish you, that help you grow, that honor the extraordinary woman you are. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery. If this message has helped you, share it with another woman who needs to hear it. And if you want to continue growing with me, subscribe so that together we can explore the secrets of the human heart. Your transformation begins now, and I deeply believe in the strong woman you are meant to be.